Well, hi everyone, it's Marcus and welcome to more Zooming in the Jungle Room. Today I am speaking with an absolute champion. She's a delight. She is Rachael Grace and she's coming to Adelaide very soon. Rachael, how are you?
Hello, gorgeous. I'm very, very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, what an absolute pleasure. Hey, so let's talk about the show. The show is called the Australian Barbra Streisand Show, which obviously explains your hair and of course your outfit.
Yes, so the hair and the outfit's a little bit of a giveaway. Very, very Barbara. But yes, the show is called the Australian Barbra Streisand Show. And we celebrate 6 decades of Barbra Streisand hits, all of the big music, like movie musical songs, the music theatre songs, some of her earlier jazz stuff. And then we even do some daggy disco because I don't think we can get away without doing some Barbara daggy disco in there, get the people dancing. So it's really, really fun. It's 6 decades of her absolutely amazing career.
Let's go back a little bit. When did you first fall in love with Barbra Streisand and or her music?
So for me, I first fell in love with Barbara. I started singing around the age of 11. And when I started singing, I loved listening to Ray Charles and Van Morrison. And my parents, my mum in particular, was a massive Barbra Streisand fan. And of course, I was like, oh, Barbra Streisand, who's that? And then I watched Funny Girl for the first time, and I just fell in love with Barbara. I thought she was the most unbelievable person I'd ever seen. Like her comedic chops, she was so funny, but the voice that just came out, I personally had never heard anything like it. And because I was so used to singing Ray Charles and Van Morrison, which for a female voice came reasonably easy. Suddenly I've tried to sing Don't Rain on My Parade and I've gone, wait a minute, this is really hard. So I just fanatically listened to her album on repeat and started learning her music. And kind of once I ticked that one off, I'd learn the next song. And she just became, I call her my queen. So she became my queen. And from then it's just been Barbara all the way. So yeah, it's a long relationship I've had with Barbara, but she's absolutely my idol.
And me too. Like my parents used to have all of her vinyl and all that. But before I talk about my vinyl that introduced me to Barbara, what was the album in your parents' collection that resonated with you first and foremost? Do you remember?
First and foremost, it would have to be Funny Girl. That was the one that when I first saw her, I'd seen Funny Girl, and then I went over to the CD collection and I pulled it out and I've listened to it. And of course, you've got My Man and you've got The Greatest Star, and you've got so many different musical feelings happening on that album that I was just obsessed. And then I moved on to A Star Is Born. I absolutely love Barbara's version of A Star Is Born. So I learned A Star Is Born back to front. And then it was one of those compilation albums that was the Essential Streisand, that it kind of had all of her best hits. I mean, we've got so much music we could cover. How could they really choose? But it's got all of her most iconic hits. That was what it was, a double album. And I went through, and that was the one that I got exposed to most of her stuff. So it's a combination of those three, but Funny Girl and A Star Is Born are definitely up there for me.
You know what? I'm tick, 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 all of those. Mine was the first album I came across in my parents' collection. And it was more so my father that was into Barbara. Mum was more into Elvis. But, you know, there you go. Maybe next time around you can do an Elvis show. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, both my parents happy. But mine was the album that I came across first was Memories. Amazing. You know, Enough Is Enough, New York State of Mind, you know, some massive bangers. And of course that big perm that she had going on.
Yeah, the big Barbara perm, which I wish I could pull that off, but I don't know if that's my look.
You get to Adelaide early enough, I'll take you to my favorite wig shop and we'll see what we can achieve.
Let's do it. I'm excited. I love that album as well. It's funny that you mentioned that, you know, with New York State of Mind. And when I was originally putting the show together, I've got 6 decades of what do you choose? Like, how do you make the cut? How do you make those decisions? And now that I'm in the studio recording a bunch of Barbara stuff, funnily enough, you know, we've got Memories, we've got New York State of Mind, we've got all of those ones that are kind of on that Memories album that are just iconic Barbara. And they're of course included in the show because they're just my favorites.
Is there a song that, I mean, you know, you probably, like me, love all of the catalogue, but is there a song that you really like? Yeah, that's my jam. That's the one I really love.
I go through phases. I would say consistently it's My Man from Funny Girl, the Funny Girl movie. That's the one that I remember I heard it when I was about 12 or 13. And then I tried to sing it at the time, and, you know, I'm heartbroken and my man's just left. And I was like, you know, 12 in my kitchen, just singing my heart out. So that's probably one of those songs that it just always hits the spot, and it just feels really good. But there are so many Barbra songs I could name. Like in the show, we do Happy Days Are Here Again with the Judy Garland Get Happy version. And that's one of my favorite moments in the show, because I get to share the stage with my very dear friend and amazingly talented colleague, Cara Siski. And we get to have a little Barbra and Judy moment. I mean, there's so Enough is Enough is another one. It's just so fun. But yeah, I would say my number one would be My Man, I think. I think that would be the one.
And then there was the Guilty album as well with Barry Gibb. Do we
Barry
have any
Gibb.
bangers from that album?
Of course we do. We've got Guilty on there. And we've kind of done a bit of a gender bending role. Barry's voice sits nice and high. So we have Cara doing the Barry Gibb part. But I love that whole album. I think Barry Gibb is just an incredibly talented songwriter. And the combination of him and Barbra just works really, really well. Yeah, and on that album, What Kind of Fool? We don't do it in the show yet. I'm hoping to add it in at some point, but What Kind of Fool is just such a beautiful song.
And how long has this show been around for, the Australian Barbra Streisand Show? How many years have you been hearing it?
So we've been going for about 18 months at this point.
Cool.
We started the show out, it was last year, and I started it with a different name. It was called Watch Closely Now, which is referenced, it's a Star is Born reference. But of course, it's not one of her kind of big hits that everyone knows. So I found a lot of people were going, well, what is this show? What is it about? What's it about? And I was like, well, it's Barbra Streisand, but it wasn't really a giveaway. So I did a rebrand. I rebranded it to the Australian Barbra Streisand Show. And since then, we've been going about 18 months strong at this point, and just been picking up traction, you know, spreading the Barbra love wherever we can.
I like it. And tell us about the band. How big's the band? What have we got?
So we've got a rhythm section. So we've got the incredible John Thorne on keys, and he's also our music director, and he's incredibly talented. He also might give you some Neil Diamond if you're lucky. We've got bass. Our incredible bass player is named Adrian Close, and he is going to give you a bit of, you know, electric bass, some upright bass for all of those like more jazzy numbers. He's just such a beautiful player. We've also got Darren Ferrugia on drums, who Darren Ferrugia is just a world-class drummer, and, you know, has played with everyone. And I'm so lucky to get to play with him on this show. And of course, Cara Siski, my incredibly talented backing vocalist / supplementary vocalist / my Barry, my Judy, my who else? Donna Summer. She really does it all. I work her hard.
And you know what? Rightly so. Work her.
Exactly.
And this has not been to Adelaide as yet, has it?
Not yet. No, it hasn't. I'm based in Victoria, so we've mainly been building up the show and kind of ironing out the kinks and working out those things in Victoria. And I'm so excited to be bringing it to the Regal on the 14th of September. I'm so incredibly excited.
And it's the 8 o'clock session, I believe. So, but yeah, the Regal Theatre, an amazing theatre in Adelaide, just 5 minutes out the city over there. You are going to have an absolute ball. And, you know, some big stars have actually performed at the Regal Theatre now. Well, we've had Anthony Kalia there. We've had Rhonda Birchmore, Todd McKenney, Casey Donovan, Paul Linney. Oh, my goodness. The list goes on.
I am very grateful and humbled to be in such incredible company with those incredible performers. Like,
you know they would say the same about you, Miss Rachael Grace.
Oh, thank you.
Now, costumes. Are there costume changes at all?
Of course there are. It's a Barbra Streisand show. We've got to have some drama, dear. We start the show out with kind of a more vintage Barbra look. And then we do have a couple of costume changes in there to kind of go through the Barbra evolution over the years.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And fingernails, do they make an appearance?
How could we not?
Exactly.
Of course they are. I don't feel like we could do a Barbra show without having the nice long fingernails, because it's just such an iconic part of her look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That and the nose. But you know what? We don't need to wear prosthetics, do we?
No. I mean, I'm paying homage to Barbra. I'm honoring Barbra. She's my idol, but I never ever want to I'm not trying to be her, if that makes sense. I'm not putting on the Barbra, like the voice and the accent that she does when I'm just talking or those kind of things. I'm very much so staying true to I'm Rachael Grace singing the hits of Barbra Streisand, and I'm trying to do them justice and pay respect to them as much as I can. So I'll avoid the prosthetics because I mean I might not be able to breathe properly with it on. I don't know.
Hey, now let's go up to one of her more recent movies. Well, it's actually not that recent anymore. It was in the 90s, you know, Prince of Tides. On
Yes.
that soundtrack to that movie, there was the Bryan Adams duet that she did. Does that make an appearance in the show?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. But I'm working on a new project with a friend of mine that we may perform that one in that project. But at the moment, it's not in the Australian Barbra Streisand Show, but I am working on it because that song is just stunning. It's just such a beautiful duet.
Well, you know what? The tickets have been going really, really well. I think there should absolutely be an encore show as we lead into, you know, maybe later in the year or in the new year. And then, you know what? Maybe these little ones can slip in.
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
Because, I mean, like I said, so far, these tickets are going really well. Adelaide is very excited to see this.
That's all right.
Hey, what would your favorite Barbra movie be, whether it be a musical or a drama?
Oh, favorite Barbra movie. I mean, not to sound like a broken record, I feel like it's A Star Is Born.
Okay.
I love her performance in that. Particularly, I love the closing scene. The closing song. There's a close up of her face that's probably 7 minutes of just this of Barbra Streisand and her singing, and you can feel the emotion just pouring out of her. And it's just one of those things of when I first watched that movie. I mean, not meaning to have any spoilers here, but I think most of us know how the end of A Star Is Born turns out. It's not overly happy ending. And the first time I watched it, I was just an absolute mess. Of course, I always love Funny Girl. I love Hello Dolly. I think she's just so fun in Hello Dolly. But they'd be my top three, I think. What's your favorite Barbra film?
A Star Is Born, pretty amazing. Actually, you know what? I'm a massive fan of a lot. Even the main events with Ryan O'Neal. I mean,
Yes.
The Owl and the Pussycat. There's so many. But you know what? I'll tell you this. This was purely by accident. I was having a chill night only a couple of weeks ago, and I watched Meet the Fockers. I mean, she doesn't sing in that, and you know, and it was so much fun. Again, she had that little permed do going on, and she's a sex therapist, of course.
Sex therapist.
You know what? She's just great in everything she does. You know,
I watched that myself, and I saw the bloopers reel of her and Dustin Hoffman just having they're just having a dag of a time and just like bouncing off each other and having a play. And I love that movie just because a lot of people go, oh, well, Barbra takes herself too seriously. Not really. Like watch Meet the Fockers.
I know, right? Exactly. But you know, no, she's an absolute icon, and what an absolute privilege to be able to have the Barbra Streisand Show, the Australian Barbra Streisand Show, coming to Adelaide. Like I said, the ticket's going really well. Adelaide is champing at the bit for it, and you will love the Regal Theatre. I promise you that.
I'm so looking forward to it.
Rachael, going out, why should everybody come and see the show? What can they expect?
You can expect a celebration of some of the most iconic hits of the last 60 years. This is one of the crazy things, is that a lot of people have come to see the show, and even if they're not the biggest Barbra Streisand fan, they come and see the show and they go, I didn't know she did that song. I didn't know that was her. And so there are so many familiar songs. We cross so many genres. Like I said, we've got jazz, we've got disco, we've got music theater, we've got pop. We've kind of got a bit of everything in there. So there is something for everyone. And yeah, it's just a celebration of an incredible musician and also some incredible composers that she's had the opportunity to work with. So it's a real bit of fun, and it's just some really great music with some really, really great musicians as well.
Sounds good to me. Okay, everyone, so it is the Australian Barbra Streisand Show starring Rachael Grace is coming to Adelaide on September the 14th, which is a Saturday night at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. So matinee and an evening. How exciting. Rachael, I can't wait to have you here in Adelaide at the Regal Theatre. Fun times.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.